everyone, and welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Samantha Anderson. I am a freelance artist and teacher hoping to inspire creativity. If you would like more videos like these, please take a second to like and subscribe down below. It really helps in the algorithm of YouTube to help get my videos seen to more people. If you want to receive notifications of when I go live, please make sure to hit the bell and choose all notifications. If you have any questions during or after the class, make sure to pop a comment down below and I will answer it as soon as I can. I'll be leaving timestamps down below so you can skip ahead to the start of class, but I will be sharing announcements as well as supplies, so make sure to stick around for that. If interested in learning more about my classes, please follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and feel free to check me out on Patreon, where I teach exclusive classes to those who support me. In Patreon, I also give traceables for all of my live classes, including this one. Lastly, if you would like to share your work after class with me and others who painted along with us, please head over to Facebook, as I have an artist community where you can share your finished painting with us. I'll leave links for all of that in the description box below. Thanks for joining me, and let's get started. Hi everyone, welcome back to another live class. I am so excited for this one, and I know I say that every time, but literally I found this photo probably, I think 5 or 6 months ago, and I put it in my little folder of pictures to paint, and then I went on a little break because we moved, and so it's been a photo that I have wanted to paint for like 5 or 6 months, and I'm just like, we're finally here. I finally get to paint it, and I'm so excited. So yeah, welcome in. Let me know where you're painting from. I always love to see, I always have a lot of Canadians in here and a lot of people from just kind of all over. It's just kind of fun to see where people are painting from. But yeah, I've kind of changed my setup a little bit based off of my last live class and my patrons asking for a different view, because I used to paint straight on, and sometimes the detail work would get a little bit lost because my hand would be in the way. So I'm trying out a little at an angle. I personally like to see like it straight on from my computer, but if it's better for you to see at an angle to see what I'm doing when I get real up close, then that is what I want, because these videos are for you guys, and if you can't see what I'm doing, then there's no point in me doing it, right? So let me know how this one goes, and let me know your feedback, because if it still doesn't work, then I want to change it to make sure we can get it right. Hello, Lexi from Nebraska. Hello, welcome in. I'm going to go over the supplies real fast, and then a couple announcements, and then we will get going on our painting. Me just dropping stuff, it's fine. I dropped this. If you guys don't have this, I have a flat palette, and this is used to scrape off the paint when either I need to clean it or I need to make some space for it. So that's what that is. Alright, so for this class, I'm using, as always, an 11 by 14 canvas. This is just a standard one from Hobby Lobby, nothing special. And then this is my traceable. It's a very, very simplified traceable that I just took directly from the picture. So if you want this, it's available on my Patreon. You can get a ton of things on my Patreon, tutorials, quick tips, traceables, all sorts of things. So make sure you check that out at the end of the video, or now if you would like to. I have traceables for all of my live classes on there. If you don't want to do the traceable, that is totally fine. It's a fairly basic shape. So I've already traced mine on there. You can see a little bit of the lines, and we will be going over this all in black before we start painting the blue. So if you haven't done your traceable yet, or you haven't drawn it on, I would do that now. Essentially, what you're gonna do is you have a basic cylinder, a basic rectangle is this, and then you're gonna make a little bit smaller coming out right there, and then essentially you have your hand. Now your hand is gonna be in a different perspective. Think about holding something out ahead of you, and that's the perspective that you're gonna draw it in. So it looks a little weird right now because it's like, what am I looking at? But if you hold something out in front of you, that's what you're gonna be drawing. So if you're confused about where everything goes, hold your hand out in front of you and go based off of that. Okay, so that's what's on my canvas right now, in case you're interested. I do have a link in the description, as well as a pinned post or a pinned comment in the live chat for you with that. But yeah, go ahead and start drawing that on. I'll go over the rest of the supplies and then we'll get started. So again, 11 by 14 canvas, but you can use any size you want. The traceable comes in 11 by 14 as well as a 9 by 12. If you have a different size canvas and you want a traceable for that size canvas, just pop a message in Patron and let me know, and I will create that for you. It's super easy to do. I'll downsize it, upsize it, whatever you need. For the colors, I'm using Hippie Crafter acrylics. These are pretty great. The colors I'm going to be using are my white, my black, of course, and then so depending on the color of sky you want, if you wanted a more blue, then I would use ultramarine blue. I really, really like this almost like teal blue color that's coming out here. So I'm going to be using my Phthalo Blue, okay? My Phthalo Blue, and then I also have a green in case I want to make it a little bit more green. And then for the inside of, is it called a nebula? For the inside of the stars and the galaxy, I have my orange and my yellow. And that's pretty much it. Honestly, you could make these colors really whatever you wanted. So don't put yourself in a box and don't feel like you have to just have those. We've had a couple more people say hello. Hello from South Dakota, Merced, Ontario, Sacramento. Hello. Sacramento, we are close to you. I'm in Merced. Okay, those are the colors for the brushes. I'm just going to be using my large filbert. You don't have to use a filbert. You could just use a large flat brush. That's totally fine. And then I'm going to be using a bunch of brushes I just got from Grabby. And actually just put out a review video on this, so if you haven't seen that, make sure to go check it out after the class. But that's the brand of brushes that I'm going to be using. So I have my flat filbert brush, and then a medium to large round brush, a small round brush, and then I don't think I'll be using my liner brush, but I always have them out. These are like the standard brushes that I use in almost all of my classes. So this is just my standard brushes that I use. And then I will most likely be using a toothbrush. If you're wondering what kind of toothbrush this is a PJ Masks kids toothbrush that is very used and frayed. It works great. If you do not have a artist toothbrush or old toothbrush that you want to use, you can either use any stiff old brush would work fine. You can also just use a maybe frayed flat brush, or you can use a fan brush if you would like to for the splatters. Just kind of figure it out as you go, and that also works. But yeah, those are the kind of brushes and supplies. Obviously you have your palette, your paper towel, your water, all of that jazz. Does anybody have any questions so far? Let me know in the comments below. I am getting over a cold. We literally, guys, we had COVID for 2 weeks. A few weeks ago, we had like 4 or 5 days off, and then we all got sick again. Not COVID, but we all got sick again, and I'm just like, can I get a break? So yesterday I was teaching my cobalt class, which I'll show you in a bit. Or not my cobalt class, my cobalt class in my Patreon. And I was just like coughing, and I was just like, stop, I want to stop coughing. So I apologize if I cough. I've been doing better today. I haven't had any coughing episodes. Knock on wood. But with that said, if that happens, I apologize. I'm getting better over it. With that said, have you guys ever been working on a painting and you stop and have a break, and then you go back to that painting and you work on it for like an hour, and then you feel like nothing has changed? Obviously things have changed, but this was definitely one of those things. So last week I showed you this painting, and I was talking about the ugly stage and how a lot of times you get into the ugly stage, and then if you stop, it's really hard to go back to it. Well, I went back to it, and I'm loving how it's turning out. I did another coat of black. We finished the wood essentially, and we did a lot of detail work on these two parts, but I didn't touch the flowers. And I think because I didn't touch the flowers, my brain is just like, did I even do anything to this painting? So I did a lot. I did like an hour and a half, worth of painting. And I'm excited to next week finally get to the flowers. But I was just like, man, I hope people are still painting with me, because like it feels like I've done nothing. Anyways, that's a sidetrack. That is what we're doing in my Patreon with all the other classes that are available. Let's go ahead and get started. If no one has any questions, we are going to first go over in black these parts that are black. The reason for this is that we won't have to worry about our sketch or going around our sketch or anything like that, because the blue is not going to be as dark as the black. So even if we go over it, which we are going to go over all the edges, we'll still be able to see our sketch through that paint, which is the goal. So comment below, make sure you let me know if you don't have this yet, because I don't want to start until everybody has at least their sketch down, and then we'll start. So let me know if I need to wait at all, or if we're good to go. For now, I'm gonna start getting the paint out. So I'm going to be getting out my Phthalo Blue, and I feel like this is so far away. Okay. I'm gonna be getting out my Phthalo Blue. A good amount, because I don't want to have to remake this paint color. So I have my Phthalo Blue. I'm gonna get out my black. Because we're gonna have to go over this in black. And we'll probably also put some dark black on the edges, just to kind of have that vignette effect. And then I know I'm gonna want a little bit of teal, and actually you can either put green in this, you can also put raw umber to keep it dark, because this is a weird thing and you probably wouldn't have ever guessed it, but if you add raw umber to Phthalo Blue, it makes it green. It's really weird. It's really weird. And I'm not quite sure why it does that, but it just does. Let's see. I'm gonna get out a little bit of green. I mostly got out green so we can put little specks of different colors in the nebula and all the stars. Just a little bit. Okay, so those are the colors. You could also use like a viridian green, which is like Hippie Crafter has this really pretty green. It's called viridian green, and it's like a really, really pretty blue green. You could use that green also. It's like one of my favorite colors that they have. Okay, before I mix colors, let's go ahead and put on this black coat. I'm gonna grab some water and grab some paints, and I'm just going to go for it. Now it doesn't have to be super solid, in that we are going to be going over it again with black once we get those, once we get the background done. That's going to be the last thing we do. But you do want to make sure that it's not completely translucent, because we want it to be really, really dark, so that when we go over it with our other colors, it's going to show up. And I'm using my filbert brush for this because it has a natural curve to the end, which I can just stick up in those fingers, and I literally don't have to do anything else. It's already got that curve for me. Work smarter, not harder, is what I like to say. And when you're putting on this black, if it starts becoming, like if it starts not coming on very smoothly, just add a tiny bit more water to your paint and it'll start moving on the canvas a little bit easier. Essentially, either you need more paint or you need more water. Paint the bottom real fast. Here's a question for you guys. Do you guys like painting the bottom in accordance with the painting, or do you just paint it afterwards, just one solid color like black or something? So do you paint it as you go, or do you paint it at the end? Alright, so now I'm going to just paint the very edge of this. I'm going to wipe off my brush a little bit and then kind of blur the edges. I'm going to do the same thing on this side. I'm going to take black and do the edge, wipe off my brush, and then kind of blur the edges. And it doesn't have to be perfect, it's just kind of, that's how it's going to be eventually, so I just figured why not. And this is the sage that you can literally mess up and be totally fine, because we're going to cover it with a bunch of other colors. So alright, I'm going to color most of this outer edge black. Just kind of pulling in that black. I don't want to cover this whole thing in black because I want some of that light color kind of to shine through this part. Alright, so essentially what you want to do is make some markings. Your main markings are going to be from the top right to like the middle, and then each one goes down a little bit further, and it's going to look like it's like one of those mason jars. And we'll be able to go over this again and kind of clean up anything. Like if any of your edges aren't as crisp as you want them to be. So that's fine. All right, that's pretty much good. My teen and I are joining from Central. It's PA, Pennsylvania. I always feel like I'm in school again when people start talking about where they are. Just like, that's right, that's where that is. All right, so this is what that looks like. Let's go ahead and make our blue so that we can make sure that this is dry by the time we come back to it, which is also why I didn't mix my paint first. We're gonna do this and then mix our paint. Let's see how we are doing on time. Looks great. Okay, I'm going to grab my handy dandy palette knife. I like to use these for mixing paint on my flat palette. I think it's really great because I can mix all the paint I need to in one go without dirtying up a brush or my water. I'm going to just take all of this blue because I can always get more. Oh, it's such a pretty blue. I love it. I'm going to mix a little bit of my raw umber. Because I do want this to be a little bit darker. And black will make the saturation, will bring down the saturation. But adding raw umber will make it a dark teal. So I'm gonna add the rest of my brown and then a little bit of black in a different part. So I have my raw umber and my phthalo blue, and that's going to give me one color. And then I'm going to add black over here, and that's going to give me a darker version of that I'm going to use for the edges. And then I'm going to get out my white. And I'm going to take some of this blue, the original blue that I mixed, and I'm going to add some white to it. And this is where you're actually going to see what color you're working with. Look how pretty that is. Oh my gosh. I'm going to love this painting. I just know it. All right. I think I'm gonna need more paint. Now's the time to make more paint. Because now I still am in the mixing process. I think I have enough dark. I don't think I have enough like medium color or light color. So I'm gonna mix together this medium color more, which is just my Phthalo Blue and my my raw umber. I don't think I put raw umber on the list, so if you don't have raw umber, it's just a brown, which is your primary colors, which I would say is your ultramarine blue, your red, and your yellow. So you could add red and yellow to your Phthalo Blue. With some ultramarine blue. If you don't have brown, obviously. But I feel like most kits will come with some type of a brown. Alright, so I'm going to take some of this and I'm going to add this white to it. So a lot of times people won't pre-mix their colors, like beginners won't pre-mix their colors, and it's really helpful to pre-mix your colors, especially if you're new and aren't used to painting and aren't used to mixing, and aren't familiar with how long it takes for things to dry. It's really, really helpful to pre-mix your paints, even though we're using practically all the same color. We're using all this blue color. It's essentially just adding black and white. Instead of adding black and white straight to the canvas, we're pre-mixing 3 different colors, 3 different shades of the same color, and that will make the blending process so much smoother while we're painting. And then you'll spend less time trying to mix on your canvas, and then you'll be able to mix easier because your paints won't be drying as you're trying to mix. Does that make sense? So pre-mixing your colors is really, really handy for beginners, and I try to do that in all of my beginner classes because it's just easier. So I'm gonna go ahead and open up my my paper towel, slip my knife in there, my palette knife, and wipe that off. So now I have 3 different blues. I know this one looks like it's black, but once we put it on the canvas, it's gonna be a really, really dark blue. So I have my light blue, my medium blue, and my dark blue. I'm gonna go ahead and grab my large filbert brush. Looks like this. I'm going to dip it in my water, dab it off with my paper towel, and then I'm going to start on this side and work all the way around to the right side. This is all dry at this point, so I don't have to worry about it blending and losing my lines. I'm gonna start on the left side. Actually, I'm gonna start on the right side because I grabbed my canvas on the left side. So I'm gonna work on my right side and go to the left. I'm gonna start with this medium blue and try not to use a whole bunch of water in this process because I don't think we're going to be doing a second coat. At least I'm not. That's the hope, is that we're not going to. But if we do need to do it, then that's fine. And you're just going to grab a ton of paint because this is all the same. I think we might need to do a second coat because I can already see that it's not transparent enough, or it's not opaque enough, like the color itself. I didn't add very much water, so we might need to do a second coat, which is totally fine. We can totally do a second coat, and that will make it really, really that'll make it great in terms of. That means this first coat, it does not need to be perfect. You're just going to lay that color on here. And I can move fairly quickly. I'm not even going to worry about the dark edges yet. I'm going to do that on the second coat. So as I get to the middle though, I am going to start using my lighter coat. And I'm even going to go into my white. So I'm using very, very long strokes, and I'm using the lightest coat, the lightest color as I go near where the galaxy is going to be, the stars are going to be. Go in with just a little bit of white. Do this inside here. And I'm going to go into the dark when it gets down here. I'm just going to go over that whole thing with strokes going out, just to make sure that it's blended. And I take a little bit more white and blend that out. And when I say blend that out, I'm just kind of doing a crisscross motion, like I'm going like this. And I'm gonna finish it off by going up and down the whole thing. And keep moving over to the left. And remember that it doesn't have to be perfect because we're doing a second coat of this. And your second coat is really great because by doing a second coat, you can fix any colors that are correct. So if you put something on the canvas and it's not a good coat, or it's not a good color, that's okay. Go ahead and put it on the canvas anyways, and you can change the color in the next coat. Like you can make it lighter or darker. Obviously, if it's like brown, don't put that on there. If it's like really, really green and that's not the color you want, then don't do that. But if it's close to the background color that you want, just go ahead and put it on there, and we'll fix it in the second coat. So after I got all that paint on there, I'm taking my brush and I'm just going all the way up. You see that? Going all the way up and blending it all the same color. What's nice about the sky is it is very, like, I don't know, splotchy textured in the middle. So it's gonna make for a really, really great beginner class, which is one of the reasons why I picked it for a beginner class. I'm gonna put a little bit of my dark color down here. And again, once I get that on there, I'm going to go up and down. All right. So that is the basics of this painting. I'm going to rinse this brush out because I need to make more of my medium blue. And actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to make both my shades of my medium blue and my light blue lighter. Okay? So as I let this dry and I'm, you know, preparing it for a second coat, and I get the bottom of my canvas, I'm going to lighten those coats. Okay. Right. Okay, I'm going to, before I remix these paints, I do want to go over the parts of the black that got a little lost. Because if I go over this with another coat of blue, my sketch is going to be lost. So I'm just going to go in with my black. And kind of cover up those parts. as last time. I'm just putting in that black and then just kind of pulling it out a little bit. All right, so I have that. I'm gonna mix again. This one, the medium one, and I'm gonna add white to the lightest one. So add more Phthalo Blue, add more raw umber, mix that together. And as I stated before, this was a little bit too dark, I think. So I'm going to add just a little bit of white to it. And then I'm adding white to my lighter version. All right, I'm gonna wipe off my palette knife. And I'm gonna go back in. This is pretty much dry, if not all the way dry. And I'm going to go ahead and do that all over again. So the only difference that I'm gonna do on this time around is that on the edges, on the four corners, I am gonna be putting a little bit more of that dark color on. So I'm gonna go ahead and start with that. Start with this really dark blue. And then I'm gonna start coming in. I'm gonna mix it in with that blue I have already created. And you're just gonna blend that corner. I'm gonna go all the way up to the point where it starts to get light. So I'm gonna start putting in my light color now so that I can mix that as we go. And I'm gonna add this light color to this middle section here, where all the stars will be, and just blend that. And the more times you go over something, the more it'll blend. So I'm going to take my medium color and put it over here. Come back and get my light color. And you can blend by going back and forth. You can blend by doing little X's. Or you can blend by going up and down while going back and forth. Or you can do all of them. Go back into my dark. And I'm going to add a little bit of this dark color up in here in the corner here. And I'm just blending just where they touch. So it can be kind of darker in the corner. I figured it makes sense for this corner not to be as dark because the light is like going in that direction. I have not done the inside of my thing yet. Just letting you guys know. Alright, so now I'm going to just color it the same color as what's around it. With kind of doing the dark edges. Alright, and what you're going to do is while this is still kind of wet, it's all still kind of wet, I'm going to take my white, once I get more white out, I'm going to get my brush wet and a little bit of white. And I'm going to take my round brush, and I'm just going to start swirling in some white, and it's going to blend with this wet paint. So there's like some white here. And I'm just doing little circles. And you're just gonna kind of do that all the way up. And if you have a part that's like too white, just try to blend it out a little bit. But there's a big white spot like right here. Or maybe you can wipe your brush off a bit and blend out just the edges. Like that. Maybe we'll put another white spot over here. What I'm doing right now is a lot like what I do in my cloud classes. You're just going to continue adding, even if you have like nothing, what you think you have nothing on your brush, that's where you can add the really subtle colors, like up in this area. I'm just going to keep adding white to this area. Maybe a little softer. You can dab some color on here. Let's see. So I had too much white on my brush for this section, so I just wiped it off, and I'm just gonna blend out like the edges. All right. Now that that is done, because it is a lot easier to do that while it's wet to get a little bit of a better blending. Now that you have the base for that, the rest is going to be easy. We're going to wait until it's dried a little bit, and actually before we let it dry, I'm going to put in the spots that are orange. You're going to want to do that in white first, and then color it orange in a little bit. So I'm just going to add a bit of a white spot to mark where that is. Just while it's still wet. All right. Now I'm gonna go over the black. Actually, let's do our stars first, because our black is kind of the last thing we're gonna do. Yeah, let's do our stars. So go ahead and grab your either a toothbrush or a fan brush or an old frayed brush. You're gonna dip it in a little bit of water, grab some white, and you can even try it out on your palette beforehand, and make sure you have the right consistency. If it's too wet, you're gonna end up with drips, and if it's too dry, nothing's gonna happen. So you want to try to get the right consistency before you put it on your painting. And you're gonna have more stars towards the middle. And this is exactly the reason why I have little tiny specks of white paint all over my computer. This is the reason. My husband always says, why don't you just wipe it off? Because I forget, and then this happens again and it gets dirty all over again. It just happens. Life of a painter. Oh, goodness. Okay. Very effective. So now that that's done, I'm gonna come back in with my black, and we're going to kind of close in our galaxy in our jar. And then by that time, I know everything else will be dry in here, and we'll be able to put in kind of like our oranges and greens and whatever else colors we want to put in there. So I'm going to grab my black. And this time we're going to come back and do a final coat of black over the whole person, over the whole hand. I almost called it a glove, but it's probably just because in order for my hand to be this big, I would need to be wearing a glove. Because my hand does not look like this. If you've lost any of your sketch, just try to look at the picture as best as you can. Turn this a little bit. now I'm going to work on the jar. And just take your time with this. I would work on getting that outline first, because that part is black, and then everything like in between is kind of just like a little bit black. And I'm just going to gently pull in a little bit. Now I'm going to turn it to the side a little bit so I have a better angle on this guy, this part of it. And I'm going to get my brush wet with just a tiny bit of black, and I'm going to put a wash on the end of this, and that's going to pull in that black color. Here, I'll do it on this side again. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit of that away. So it was a little bit too dark. So on this side, if you have your black, just a little bit of black, and you have like a wash, which is, a wash is just a whatever color you're using plus a good amount of water, which is essentially just water tainted with whatever color you're using. In this case it's black, and you're just using that, and then you're slowly pulling that color out a little bit. In this case it's in towards the glass, and that's a way to blend on top of dry. And if you have too much, if you end up pulling it out too much, you can go in with a clean brush and a little bit of clean water and take some of that out if necessary. All right. I think that is pretty much good. I think that that's all I'm gonna do for the black. The last thing we have is our like yellows and oranges, or greens or purples or whatever other colors you want to use. I'm gonna get it out, just a little dab of my yellow and orange. I'm not even gonna need that much, to be honest. I'm going to mix together some of this orange and some of my white, so it's a little bit more pale. And I'm going to add just a tiny bit of yellow to it. I'm going to add some of this to the canvas up above a little bit to see how it looks. And I think I have a little bit too much on my canvas or on my brush. So if you end up getting too much on your canvas and you don't like it, just grab your brush, clean it off, get it wet, and wipe it off. And actually, I like that way more. I think I want mine to go a little bit whiter and have a little bit more yellow in it. At least for the one up here, it's a little bit more of a yellow. Wow, look at that. What is that? Where'd that come from? Grab a clean brush, a little bit of water, rub it, wipe it off. I've said this before in classes, but like, I think that, you know, more advanced painters don't necessarily get better. We just know how to fix our mistakes more and easier. Like, what was that? Oh gosh. All right, I'm just playing with the white, the yellow, and the orange to find the color that I like the most. Grab a little bit of water so it's not so intense with the color. I'm going to put it in here and rub it in with my finger. I'm gonna do like the yellow, the kind of yellow parts first. Cause it does kind of come back with like an orangier color in here. Okay, I like mine, but I think I'm too orange. And I want it a little bit, I want it to get redder. Whoa, it's not supposed to be there. So I'm gonna go in with this red. All right. I think I'm pretty much done. I don't know. What do you think? That's what it looks like. There's almost some like blue that comes back in on the top. Add a little bit of a little dynamic to it. And then you can just keep playing with it until you like it. All right, does anybody have any questions before I wrap this up? If you have any questions about blending or about adding certain things, certain details, now is the time to ask, because I think I'm all done. All right, let me know if you have any questions. But yeah, that is pretty much it. That's the end of class. Thank you so much for joining me. I will go ahead and leave a link in the live chat, as well as I believe it's also in the description of my Facebook community, where you can showcase and share your picture with me and everyone else who was in this class. I will be uploading mine to an album, and you can just insert it into that album, so everybody can see it when they go to that album. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. If you would like to have traceables or extra classes, make sure to head on over to my Patreon. You can learn all about how to join and what you get within each tier, and it's a lot of fun, and it supports the channel. So thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you guys next week. All right, have a good one. Bye, guys.